You know what I miss? Arcades. I never grew up in a time when they were the only way to play video games, but I did grow up in a time when they were still relatively popular. When I was still in grade school, we lived right next door to my grandparents. My older brother and I would always come home from school on Fridays every week and pack a bag to go stay the night with my grandma and grandpa. We would wake up the next morning and follow out our routine like we always do. Get breakfast at IHOP, go to Toys R Us to participate in Pokemon card exhibitions, and then go to our local mall for Coke Ices, Chinese food, and to each spend $5 at the arcade inside. We would have so much fun in that place, and we played so many incredible games that I will cherish forever and ever. But nowadays, there's only one small arcade in my hometown. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not really as focused on the video games. It's just kind of a kid's hangout. And yes, I know that's highly subjective, but it's undeniably different. This doesn't really surprise me though. Video game home consoles were always destined to replace arcade machines. It's in the name, home video game consoles. So arcades as I knew them are almost nowhere to be found these days. Until a few months ago. Nick, Jake, and I went up to Tennessee to visit my older brother at school for a weekend and to see Avengers Endgame. He lives in a very small town, so the theater was a very primitive AMC cinema, but inside the theater was a small arcade, and at the center of it was one of the most eye-catching things I've ever seen. CarnEvil is an on-rails arcade shooter created by Atari Games on this very day in 1998. It was published by then Mortal Kombat creators Midway before being mostly acquired by Warner Brothers. I've never seen or heard of this thing before seeing it in the small Tennessee theater. So as soon as I got home, I found myself an emulator so I could see what this game has to offer. So let's dive in and see if it's worth our time.
Ride all the rides, have some fun, then eat your heart out on a sesame seed bun!
Oh yeah, this is gonna be so worth it. The opening cutscene shows us a group of what seem to be people with jester hats on a spooky ride through a foggy forest. One gentleman gets bumped off, or does he jump off? I can't tell. Anyway, he walks right up to this tombstone of a clown and finds a token and just immediately decides to put it in his mouth. Okay, dude, you're just asking to die now. Then, surprising no one, the jester head comes to life and starts floating and flying around with the power of sparkles, which summons CarnEvil. Such a stupid name. But I'd be lying if I was to say that I didn't really dig the way some of these shots are animated. They look really cartoony yet unsettling. From there, we're thrown into the game's main menu. So, seeing as this is an arcade game, these machines are designed first and foremost to make as much money as possible. You can't play the whole game on one quarter. What if you were actually good at arcade shooters? The game can't make its money if that's a possibility. Therefore, jumping the gun a bit here, everything is ridiculously hard. You're given 3 levels to choose from and you can complete them in any order you want. And also, I swear the clown head is voiced by Frieza from the Budokai games. Starting off, this game is really goofy. It's got that dark horror and black humor to match. Think House of the Dead meets Beetlejuice, and you'll be pretty close to the tone of this game. You move your reticle across the screen and of course shoot the monsters before they have a chance to get to you and take some of your life away. There's really not a whole lot to this game other than what you would expect from a game like this. The environment/scene transitions and the vast variety of enemies are the main meat in this adventure. The whole package is just dripping with that attention to detail that will give you that indefinite lifespan in this industry. The first level, Haunted House, takes place mostly within the walls of this spooky mansion. So it's pretty standard for a spooky game. It plays it really safe as far as enemies go too. You'll be shooting generic zombies and bats mostly in this level. You encounter a mini-boss as you enter the mansion that was legitimately surprising. But I really like when you find yourself in the kitchen and all of the enemies are chopping stuff and eating people on the table. And I adore the zombie in the back that's just too focused on his dish to even be bothered by me. This game also has some really cool screen transitions. To progress in each level, your character will run a predetermined path, and scripted things will happen to your character. Most of these are really creative and fun, like when you find yourself on a roof in this level and the train knocks you off into the grave. But during some of these transitions, it can also be kind of difficult to tell what exactly is going on. The first level culminates with a boss fight against Evil Marie, a floating big-titty doll that throws hatchets at you. I really like when these shooters give me these intense angles that I'm brought along. It makes the battles and the adventure feel more dynamic, and this boss fight is very good about that. It ends in a very satisfying way with the doll falling and being impaled on a fountain. The second level,
Rickety Town,
is a Christmas-themed amusement park. This level has a lot of really fun set pieces and enemies to encounter. The first ones that greet you are these disturbing elves on top of this roller coaster track that you eventually have to traverse on foot, which is cool looking. You eventually make it down to the ground, and this is where you meet some of my favorite enemies in the game. These ticket puncher guys are so creepy and goofy, and I love them. The giant smile they constantly have is really unsettling yet funny. Plus, they make this really funny sound when you shoot them. The spinning eggs with the dinosaurs coming out was really interesting, if a little disorienting. And I'm not sure if this is what the game is doing, but it looks like the background and camera movements are all a pre-rendered FMV, and the enemies and interactable items are just animated and placed over the shots. I'm not 100% sure if this is correct, but that's what it seems like to me. But then it's on to the go-kart section after putting the smackdown on this poor zombie child.
Awesome combo!
Which was really fun and put my aiming chops to the test. Then was the boss of this level, which was a version of Krampus. And this was one of those times when the game comes after your quarters big time. You can shoot Krampus all you want, but there is nothing you can do to stop him from comboing you, which will probably cost you a quarter regardless of how good you are. But I am a sucker for the twisted Christmas aesthetic, so this was probably one of my favorites. Then the third level, Freakshow, was definitely the creepiest one of all. It's themed after a circus tent full of freaks. It definitely has the most disturbing concepts and locations in the game for me. All of the enemies are deformed and otherworldly abominations that will constantly try to attack you. From these half-baked Siamese twins, these spider monkeys that have a really cool sequence, to probably the coolest mini-boss in the game. The Clops is one of the only fights in the game where you can actually take far less damage depending on how well you place your shots. If you can knock out one of his eyeballs, he will stagger even if he's about to attack you. Plus his design is really fun, don't at me. Then you end up getting barred inside the castle. Throughout the adventure you may have noticed these little floating items. They're all power-ups for your weapon, and the heart is exactly what you think it is. There's poison, rapid fire, and a flamethrower. They're all really fun to use, and the sight of a zombie in a dinosaur costume deteriorating from poison is something I didn't think I'd see in a real video game. But back inside the castle, you have these tortured zombie guys who make the funniest sounds whenever you hit them. I really just love all of the enemies' damage sounds, I think. So after you escape the castle, you make it to the final arena, and it was the most legitimately creepy part of this game. I'll just let you experience a small snippet from it. This was the most intense and frantic battle thus far. I wasn't scared because I couldn't actually lose, but holy shit. The way this thing is animated and modeled is just so perfectly disturbing. It looks oafish enough to be intimidating and still baby enough to be recognizable. But it's sprinting after you, and the music in this fight is really amazing too. All of this game's music is really great actually, but it's very fitting for the situation. After the baby is put down, you are thrown back to the main menu to find that there is one final level. I think it's called Big Top. I'm not sure because it doesn't give you a break to be on the menu. You get thrown right into the level. You basically just make your way through the tent and fight some more clown and circus themed zombies. I do like that the big guy's nose honks if you shoot it though. However, this level is still filled with unfair moments designed to swallow up your quarters, like this. Not many new things happen besides some cool transitions, like this tightrope one that has some cool set pieces and when the floor opens up and clown surgeons attack you. But from there, you're lifted into a big Zeppelin hovering above everything. Apparently, a mad German dude has been monitoring my every move.
I have observed your every move.
So then for some reason he starts attacking me, but just then calls out to the weird jester thing head that's name is apparently Limlau. This was actually really cool, even if you kill the head thing in 10 seconds. But you're basically dueling the German dude on this big flying fortress, and it's pretty intense. Moving from platform to platform and bobbing and weaving into the battle. I know it sounds and looks kind of silly, but it's a lot of fun. When you deal the final shot, you blast him off into one of the blades and see him get chopped up into dust. A small cutscene plays that shows the Zeppelin being blown up and crashing. You then wake up in front of the grave you started the game at with a token getting dispensed back out at you that says game over. You hesitate, and then put the coin back in for one more go around. Man, this game was so well worth the research I put into it. It's not as rich and complex gameplay-wise as something like Time Crisis or House of the Dead was, but the goofiness and the setting was second to none for me. I really wish I had gotten to experience this in a real arcade when I was younger. Well, I probably wouldn't have been able to play it because I would have been a really big baby and gotten scared, but at least I got to experience it now. I honestly think you get the same amount of enjoyment just watching someone go through this one, so I wouldn't fool with setting up an emulator if you're looking to see the game for yourself. Just find a playthrough on YouTube or something. But what arcade classics do you remember that no one else does? Be sure to let me know in the comments. But anyway, I appreciate you taking the time out of your night to watch my Halloween special video. So thanks for stopping by and have a spooky night!